The little truck that could. Stick around to find out how much money my freight shaker, Haul & Tow, made in its first week, and I put the pen to paper to determine how shockingly good my fuel mileage was. Hi everyone, I'm Connor for Crossbuck RV Transport, and thank you for watching. I know there's a million things on the internet, TV, and in your personal life trying to get your attention every day, so I greatly appreciate that you all share your valuable time with me. Now let's get into the first week running the Haul & Tow, and be sure to stay to the end to see the weekly expenses and profit breakdown. I say week, and by that I mean 7 working days. In total, it was actually 9 days, but I had a few stops at the house in between runs, and that is just one of the many benefits of RV transport. Even when loaded or empty, you can route yourself by the house or wherever you want and arrive on your own schedule. So after a midweek orientation, I loaded and left for Lincoln, Nebraska on Thursday with my first load. 2 Jaycos, paying $264 a mile, and a nice little 645-mile run to break in the truck. I battled headwinds the whole way, quickly learning just how underpowered my 3126 cat motor is. But for the fuel mileage I was getting, I couldn't complain too much. We'll touch on that in a moment, and I think the numbers will surprise you as much as they surprised me. I ran into my first issue, a check engine light and a loss of power just before crossing into Iowa. It happened 2 more times, but the issue seemed to have resolved itself before I could troubleshoot it. So it was on to delivery for Friday morning. Check-in at Bish's in Lincoln, Nebraska was quick and easy. I got back late Friday night and loaded Saturday morning from Massachusetts. That load, also paying $264 a mile, would encompass 880 miles. And it went to one of my favorite dealers on the East Coast. But they aren't open for deliveries on Mondays. So this meant after loading, I could come home and hang out with the family until Sunday night. I had no issues on the way out, but ran into issues getting a backhaul coming back. As much as I hate to do it, I ran back empty rather than wait and try for another car or truck. When you own your equipment outright and don't have an expensive trailer to pay for, this is a lot easier of a pill to swallow. At least I got lucky and found something to haul back home. My new, to me, tires. If you ever find yourself coming through the Canton, Ohio area and you need tires for trucks big or small, A1 Tire Distributors is the way to go. As you can see, that drive tire is not going to last much longer, and Lee happens to post these deals on Facebook when he has decently used tires that he takes off of trucks or whatnot. So swing on by. He does have a cash discount. He does have to charge more if you pay with card, so if you can get cash out, great. And I was able to score these 2 Toyo 255 70R 22.5s for $300. That was a steal. Brand new, these things would have cost me I think $500 a pop, so I was more than happy to scoop these up, throw one of them on the truck, and keep the other one as a spare tire. So after bouncing home, I still had some time left on my clock, and the perfect short load appeared on the board. Albeit for a little bit less, $249 a mile, for 415 miles to Altoona, Iowa, just outside of Des Moines. Again, with no need to hurry, I stopped off by my house Wednesday morning. I was able to pick up my kids from school on their last day of the school year, and it's always cool to be able to make it home and make time to do things like that. Before running the last load of the week, I took advantage of the shop we have at IT. I got my code scanned on my truck, and my power loss seemed to be coming from a failing IAP sensor. This injection actuator pressure sensor sits on top of the block, and I'll admit it was not easy to get out. The camera got turned off in frustration, so I don't have footage to show y'all the whole replacement, but at least you're able to see the kind of facility we have to work on our trucks out of the elements over at Indiana Transport. The sensor seems to have fixed the issue for now, and well, I guess I can't say it was completely uneventful, because this happened. Just outside of Joliet, everybody who's driven it knows I-80. is the roughest stretch of road in the world right now. And lo and behold, that toolbox that was barely holding on, I kind of had the bungee on there as a safety. Well, that bungee safety really saved my bacon. I didn't lose anything because that toolbox handle completely broke out. Yeah, not pretty to look at. Obviously this box was pretty rusted out anyways, but this thing completely sheared the bolts off. As you can see, the nuts are still on there on the one side. So, was able to get some new handles ordered. I only ordered one, I lucked out, and they sent 3, so thank you Amazon for whoever hooked me up by mistake. $50 later, and not too bad to replace it. Oh, and it came with new gaskets and keys too, so that was nice. A grand total of 1,940 outbound miles for my first week. It honestly couldn't have gone much better if I tried. So let's talk about fuel consumption. It's no secret that fuel is the single highest weekly expense, and while a good fuel card can lower those costs, a fuel-efficient motor and tune on that motor can make a big difference as well. But with just an 80-gallon tank, I do have to fuel up more often than most of the multi-haul drivers. And in those 7 days of running, I stopped for fuel 11 times. So to save y'all the boredom of hearing every fuel stop, I've got the best and worst stops, and we can figure out an average from that. The worst fuel economy actually came on the very first trip. 300 miles from Gary, Indiana to Brooklyn, Iowa, fully loaded, and headwinds exceeding 40 miles per hour. I put on 38.320 gallons at Brooklyn, Iowa, for a mile per gallon rate of 7.83. Normally, without the headwinds, I've had a loaded fuel mileage of upwards of 8.5. My best was the exact opposite of that. Brooklyn, Iowa, back to Gary, Indiana, empty and with no wind. This time, I stopped less and it shaved the trip down to 292 miles, and I put on 20.297 gallons in Gary for a mile per gallon rate of 14.39 miles per gallon. I've broken 14 miles per gallon a couple of other times while empty. Other times it's a bit closer to the 12 mark. So to get the average fuel mileage, we're going to take the 300 miles that were loaded, 292 miles that were empty, 592 miles, we're going to divide that by the total gallons of fuel purchased, 58.617 gallons. That gives my little freight shaker an average fuel economy of 10.1 miles per gallon is what we're going to round up to. I rechecked these numbers, the mileage, and the fuel receipts repeatedly because I could not believe I was seeing those numbers out of a Holland-tow, especially a Cat motor. In the past, running a C7 Cat, I never got anywhere near those numbers running empty or loaded in a similar Freightliner M2. Now the part everyone wants to hear about, let's talk money. Week 1 was a total loss between repairs and orientation. I didn't make a dime. But week 2 was great and the money is rolling in. Of course, it wasn't without its expenses either. The IAP sensor ran me almost $300 from Caterpillar, and I spent another $300 on the 2 tires that I scored in Ohio. Lastly was the new Toolbox handle for $50. So this week, I added another $650 to the total, bringing me up to $15,650 into this truck so far. As for the money I made, for 3 runs and 1,940 loaded miles, I took home $2,448 from my gross of $4,523. That is after all fuel, parts, various expenses, and $253 towards my bond. Not bad for the first week, and certainly great in my book, considering how much home time I got in the process. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for sticking it out. I apologize if some of the video looks recycled. I had some technical difficulties with the GoPro this week, and even now, I still don't film much on my first trip. I just like to focus on the job at hand and get it done, and pay extra attention to, especially, a new truck. Thank you all again for watching and for the comments, and if you haven't already, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss out. I'm Connor for Crossbuck RV Transport. Stay safe and take care.